give us some pearls of wisdom, like your journey as a Black or African American. Give us your 3 pearls of wisdom that you learned throughout your journey as you navigated to where you are right now.
I would say that the first would be research your own history. You are as old as time. Know thyself. Never rely on anyone else to document and tell your history.
Powerful.
And if you aren't satisfied with the created history, create something that you can be proud of.
Greetings and welcome to When the Moment Chooses You podcast. I am your host, Coach Charlene, and I'm excited today to have one of my sisters. I call her. She is really a mentor and a woman of inspiration. And this month, I decided to do something on Black history because it's extremely important to me. And I wanted to put some voices in the midst so that we can hear how important it is to them and what we can actually glean from what they're going to say. So welcome to this series. The series is starting today on MLK, Martin Luther King's Day. So it's extremely just really special for me to do this. And I'm super excited to kick it off with Tanya. So Tanya, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to be here. I'm so glad to be back. Thank you. It's an honor.
Yeah. So why don't you, for some of the people that may not have listened to the earlier podcast, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm a registered nurse executive. I've been in nursing for 30 years, been in the healthcare industry for a very long time. I'm a transformational nurse executive leader is what I am. So I love to see change happen, see lives transformed, patients' lives transformed, as well as healthcare clinician lives transformed.
Okay, that's awesome. And she is like the bomb. Okay. I'm just saying. But what I wanted to talk about, Tanya, I got to share this because when I was in middle school is my first recollection of taking Black history. And it was taught by this Caucasian guy. And he did not even go into all of the stuff that I learned post class. It was just like basic stuff and nobody was paying attention. And it was kind of one of those things. It wasn't inspirational at all. It didn't really give you anything to look up to, and which I thought was really unfortunate. So that's why I kind of wanted to unpack this for this month to really show like what is Black history all about and why is it important? So why don't we start there and you can just tell us a little bit about why you think Black history is important, or why is it important to you?
Okay. Well, Black history is important because Black history is history.
Yes.
Black history is important because I am important. We don't know that Black people were the very first people on earth. But we know that we were the first civilized culture. From animal domestication, crop production, we were the first horticulturalists, the first mariners, shipbuilders, machinists, creators of labor tools. And most importantly, we were one of the first creators of language and a written system, right?
Yes.
Black history cannot truly be significant and impactful at the levels that it should be until we are able to truly tell it accurately. Just in recent year, the word slavery was omitted from the textbooks in schools because of the negative connotation or look that it portrayed. But slavery is history. Right. It is Black history in America.
Right.
So before we can be appreciative of what is defined as progress, we must recognize and accept that the history that we are taught is many times different from the history that we discover on our own.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I remember, like I said, that was the only history class I took, which was not accurate at all. It wasn't an accurate depiction of what we really brought to the table. And so then I joined this church and they did this, it was like this mural of creators. And oh my God, I was like, OMG. We have created so many things that we use every day, but there was never acknowledgement about it. So I was like blown away. It was like, I mean, my early years, and I was like, whoa, I didn't even know anything about this. And unfortunately I didn't, my mom and dad, they didn't really get into it as much. We just like were surviving, trying to make it. But when I start really digging in and seeing how powerful we were and what impact we had, I was so inspired,
Yeah.
quite honestly. So yeah, tell me about a little bit more about what you would say, especially the creators. Like we had like major creators. You just mentioned a few yourself, but is there anybody in particular that you kind of is one of your faves?
I've got so many, that I look to, that I learn from. You take a piece here, a piece there.
Yes.
It's like taking our Black history when we study it and tell it as truth. It gives us the blueprint, and every individual that you read and that you study moves you forward in to today. But the blueprint allows for you to be able to guide yourself as you move forward. So keep in mind, the goal when slavery and captivity was all started by those before was to really never allow us to connect to our African brothers and sisters,
Right.
which translated into that robbing of a people, of our names, of our families, our harmony, and essentially our culture. And if you recall, religion was the tool that we
Right.
used to gather and communicate and exchange information, because it was actually unlawful, if you recall, for slaves to be together in groups, which actually
Absolutely.
carried over into Jim Crow. So when you think about the psychology of overcoming and being robbed of your name and culture, that's huge. So there are many individuals over time who have contributed to my learning, in many ways, from Martin Luther King Jr., which today we're talking about, and celebrating, to even Malcolm X.
Yes,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? So everybody has a place, pieces, nuggets that you use to help inform that history that you never were allowed to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I was when I like I said, this was the first time that I actually had an opportunity to go volunteer, because normally we're working on this day. So we finally like had an opportunity where you actually are compensated for the holiday. So
Yeah.
that's awesome, because then you can kind of go see where the need is. And what I recognize is that the need is so great, and we have so much more work to do. But I love how you said we have to first like uncover the real truth, the
Mm-hmm.
real history, to in
Exactly.
order for us to move forward. So where would you say, give us some, I'd love to hear some experiences that you've had throughout your career or life that you think could inform some of the audience about Black history, about you, and how you connect in, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah, I think many of the lessons of life that I have had, I learned them after the fact. So I'm going through them,
Right.
right? And then later, even years later, I can look back on them and see the lesson within
Yes.
them. And, for me, one of the biggest lessons, systems, especially health systems, sometimes can be set up to cause people of color to see themselves as second class. And I've been in the healthcare industry for so long. The first time in the industry as a leader, when I realized the strength of diversity, the necessity for inclusion, the power of equity, was when I was recruited to Mississippi because I was Black,
Mm.
because I was a nurse, and because I had a master's degree. Now, of course, I'm thinking, whoo, I'm being recruited, first of all. And I've got this piece of paper, this master's degree in tow. But it wasn't until later that I actually understood they actually needed me because I was Black.
Yeah.
And I looked at the money. I'm getting more money. This is great. So a former hospital system that I worked with had acquired several hospitals in Mississippi. And one of those hospitals that was an acquisition hospital had been essentially used to relocate Black physicians, separate the Black physicians from the white physicians. And the Black physicians had a higher volume. And so subsequently, I was recruited because some of the local other hospitals in the area decided that they were not happy about all this patient volume bypassing their facility and going to this other hospital, that these physicians were actually also credentialed to practice at. They were taking that volume to another hospital. So they, because it's Mississippi is a certificate of need state, they said that they wanted to close the hospital down. And because this little hospital had been opened without a certificate of need, it just didn't have an emergency room on it. They petitioned the court to close the hospital. So I was recruited to actually bring those hospitals back together in the event that they lost the certificate of need. Wow. The hospital didn't want to lose the volume because most of that volume was coming from those Black physicians. And so we lost the certificate of need. I had to merge all of those hospitals, the physicians, the nurses, everybody back together. And subsequently ended up being promoted to chief nurse executive and was the first Black chief nurse executive in Mississippi for a for-profit hospital system. Post that, but what was so surreal about that was that this was in 2003.
Wow.
So again, when you think about it as you're going through it and you're experiencing it and, all of the things that happened during that process of people trying to get me out of the job and get rid of me and all the fights that I had to fight to get past it, the calls to federal agencies trying to get, the physicians' insurance raised. And, it was just amazing the things that were happening, but it was going on during that time. So I never thought of it. And I certainly wasn't raised in that. But it happened and went through it. And I look back on it now and I say, wow.
I know.
Whoa.
What happened there?
Exactly. But it shapes you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
To move forward, but it shapes you to be able to recognize things in a different way as you grow into being a leader, right?
Yes.
Now
absolutely.
I would see it coming a mile away. But before,
Yeah, you're just in it. So I have a question about that. So when you're in something like that, was there at any point in time, did you say, you know what, hold up? Did you do that at all? Or it was just too much grind for you to even pay attention to that type of thing?
You look for so many different, you look in so many different directions for support. And in many times, especially back then, that support wasn't there. It was almost just a way of life because of where I was living, right? They were so used to that. And so if it were not for all of the individuals that I met along the way who took me to the side, even the physicians, encouraging me, giving me tips and pointers and saying, this is what you should do. This is how you should look at this. Don't worry so much about this. Focus on this. It's just those little phone calls. It's those words of encouragement. It's knowing that someone is there and sometimes they come from nowhere.
Right.
You'd least expect it. But they see your struggle, right? They see your struggle. They see the things that you're fighting and you're dealing with. and they just stop and take a moment for you.
That's awesome. I mean, that's really awesome because there has to be a bit of consciousness to be able to see, especially, I mean, you were in that environment. So for them to be bold enough to step in and say, hey, I want to say some kind words or encourage this sister because she's doing an amazing job. I mean, that's awesome. I really like that happened to you.
Yeah. They'd
Yeah.
seen many others come before and didn't survive. I think I think that was it more than anything else. This one they haven't been able to take out yet. So
yeah, and it's a troopers. You working with something right now. No, that's awesome. I was thinking about, we always look at opportunities, like when that happened when the murder of George Floyd happened, many people started reaching out, like not knowing what to say. How can I help? Many of our allies is what I call them. So I'm wondering, do you have any wisdom and advice for anybody that wants to support or, do anything that can help the cause, so to speak?
Sometimes, I have to look at it from a different perspective, right?
Okay.
And how I'm trying to help others see the space where many people of color have a tendency or tend to exist, So for instance, in warfare, what do you do first to your enemy? You knock off your enemy's livelihood, right?
Yes.
Their ability to move about, buses, rail, So if you're an ally and a leader, then you and your corporation should be focusing on ensuring that my people, our African American people, have above adequate, reliable transportation to get to work, school, the store, etc. You see?
Yes.
Look at infrastructure. In warfare, if you're an enemy, you knock off supplies or resources like water and food access. Look at Detroit.
Yes.
They have brown water. Jackson.
Yes.
As an ally, if you have the power and the privilege to, first of all, drink clean water, then you don't know the struggle. To eradicate the struggle as an ally and partner is to create exactly what you would expect in those communities that you serve in terms of infrastructure and access.
Yes.
So as an ally, it's like, let's stop talking about it and be about it.
Yes.
If you serve a community, what does the community look like that you serve? Is it exemplary of who you are and what you want to see? And if not, how are you partnering in that community with community leaders to change that look?
Yeah, that's awesome. I was, for a long time, I was the only African American leader. And so the question was, well, where are all of the nurse leaders? That was the question. Like, how do we find them? How do we recruit? How do we find out? And, I was thinking about that question and I was like, I remember when I had to go to the military to even go to school, Tanya. Wow. So that's how I had the finances to go to school. And I know that when I talk to the younger millennials and people in that stature, they're like, man, it's too expensive to go to school. I want to be a nurse. I would love to do that, but I don't have the finances and my family can't afford to send me. So, I'm kind of stuck. So, what would you say to that? Like, how can we, like, where are we? Are we around, Tanya?
We're here.
Yes.
We're absolutely here. And we have a desire to contribute.
Yes.
And, I asked the question, Are you even asking those individuals of color how to impact communities? You know, are you even asking individuals of color within your organization how your organization can better support them?
Yes.
You know, are those numbers, the numbers of individuals within your organization or within your community, do you have those numbers readily available, and are you sharing those numbers?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what does that conversation look like behind closed doors in terms of diversification?
Yeah, absolutely. Are we starting young enough? Like, are we going into the
Exactly.
elementary schools, middle schools? Maybe we are. I'm not sure. But that would be a great opportunity to go and be a light for those that want to go into the profession. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What else would you say to our allies? Anything else?
Well, you know, again, we have to start young. You know, we have to realize that generations have been impacted by
Yes.
Black history in America. And in order to change that, it's not going to happen overnight, right? And it's not going to just happen with just one thing.
Right.
You know, we have a lot of deep change that has to happen. And in order to make that happen, we have to start young, you know, start with our youth and ensure that our organizations are connected to the youth in many ways, sharing with them, showing them the opportunities that they have, which should be everything.
Right.
Right. And from there, building the pathway within your organization or within your sphere of influence for that individual, those young people of color to be able to follow.
Yes, absolutely. Wow, what a wonderful, you're so full of wisdom, Tanya. And so, what I'd like to end with is give us some pearls of wisdom, like your journey as a Black or African American. Give us your three pearls of wisdom that you learned throughout your journey as you navigated to where you are right now.
I would say that the first would be research your own history. You are as old as time. Know thyself. Never rely on anyone else to document and tell your history.
Powerful.
And if you aren't satisfied with the created history, create something that you can be proud of.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Well, you know what, my sister, it was so great having you again. So, any last words from Dr. Tanya that you would like to inspire or encourage the audience with before we say goodbye?
You know, I would just like to say, you know, take the opportunity, take 2023 to do something incredibly courageous, incredibly uplifting for yourself as well as someone else.
Beautiful. Well, Tanya, it has been a pleasure and an honor again to have you on the podcast. I just really thank you for being an inspiration to me because, you know, I told you kind of the story already that when I saw you, I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, she is like amazing because my heart had been always being wanted to be mentored by someone that was African American in leadership. So when I saw you, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I really, really appreciate all the work that you're doing, the pace setting that you're doing, the trailblazing that you're doing, the disruption that you're doing. I'm extremely excited to be a part to see you trailblaze. So keep blazing that trail because I'm right there with you.
Thank you so much. It is such an honor to be a part of the podcast and see it. I remember you talking about it.
Yes.
So to sit here and see your dream realized and the reality of it, I'm just so excited to just to be invited to the show. So whenever the
Thank you.
moment
Thank you.
chooses me, I'm here for you.
Yes, I'm so excited about that. Okay, Tanya, thank you so much. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that segment with Dr. Tanya, powerful woman of influence. And I really would love to hear your comments. I want you to engage with me in the comment section. So let me know some of your takeaways from that conversation. And I also would love for you to give me a 5-star rating, because I believe that this is a 5-star conversation that I love having. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.